East of Zambia, deep in its wild geography, lies the Luangwa Valley, a region of more than 9,000 square kilometers that is home to one of the oldest and best preserved ecosystems in all of Africa. Its landscape combines arid plains, dense forests, and a river system that, during the dry season, is reduced to a few water points essential for life. Temperatures exceed 40 degrees. Humidity fluctuates sharply, and for months the lack of rain transforms the terrain into a rugged surface where every available resource becomes strategic. Nothing happens by chance. Every movement, every behavior, every presence obeys a precise logic. Natural balance is determined by the silent competition for control of territory, access to water, and survival itself. Here, the environment leaves no room for error. Luangwa is a closed system that is precisely regulated. Constant pressure forces the species that inhabit them to adapt, anticipate, and respond. Everything that endures does so because it has learned to endure under extreme conditions. Deep in the valley of the hunters, life prevails through force and excessive violence, but also through efficiency. The ability to see opportunities where others don't is equally crucial. A place where time isn't measured in days, but in decisions, and where every corner reveals an invisible dynamic that has been perfected for thousands of years. Welcome to Luangwa, a valley that reveals its rules only to those who know how to observe. The sun slowly rises over the floodplains of the Luangwa Valley. Mist rises like a warm sigh from the river, and in its seemingly calm waters, two eyes emerge just above the surface. Motionless, the Nile crocodile waits for its moment. Its long body, covered in ancient scales that mark the passage of time, remains hidden beneath the surface. Every dawn represents a new opportunity to feed themselves, to survive, to take care of what belongs to them. The sun has not yet fully warmed the riverbed, and the silence of dawn is barely disturbed by the distant buzzing of insects. In the distance, among the reeds, a thirsty young impala approaches the river's edge. It's alone. His slender legs sink lightly into the wet mud as he lowers his head to drink, completely oblivious to the threat stalking him. Beneath the surface, it has remained motionless for over an hour. Only its eyes and the tip of its snout remain visible. His body, completely hidden, blends into the murky water. He doesn't blink, he doesn't visibly breathe, he just waits. A slight tremor shakes the surface of the river, almost imperceptible. The impala raises its head, alert, but sees nothing. He doesn't hear anything, only the whisper of the wind through the bushes, and he lowers his head again. His intuition tells him of a danger he doesn't see. Still, thirst compels him to take the risk. And then, without warning, the water explodes. A whirlwind of scales and mud surges forward with tremendous force. The jaws of this primal beast close with brutal force around the impala's front legs, which neighs in despair. The animal struggles to free itself, kicking, jumping, splashing, but it's too late. The prey is dragged into the water with astonishing speed. Within minutes, calm returns. Only a few restless ripples betray the brief scene of chaos. Other impalas watch the scene from afar, aware that they should not drink from that water. The river becomes still again, as if nothing had happened. And this morning he has achieved a great feast, which can sustain him for several days without needing to hunt again, given that his metabolism allows him to survive without food for almost a month. This is due to its ability to minimize its energy expenditure when immobile, conserving reserves until the next opportunity arises. This imposing reptile can exceed 5 meters in length and weigh up to 450 kilos. It is without a doubt one of the most feared and respected predators of the wild rivers of Zambia. And also one of the oldest, with an evolutionary line dating back more than 200 million years. Its bite is one of the most powerful in the animal kingdom, capable of exerting more force than would be needed to break a turtle's shell with little effort. Some individuals live between 60 and 70 years in the wild, if they manage to overcome the challenges that the natural environment constantly presents to them. However, in times of extreme dryness, when resources become scarce and the fight for survival intensifies, an unexpected phenomenon emerges between crocodiles and their deep-sea neighbors, the hippopotamuses. During these times, when temperatures can exceed 40 degrees Celsius during the day, water resources become scarce and valuable. This is why both hippos and crocodiles can coexist in the same pond without either species daring to attack the other. Not only would it involve a waste of energy, but there is also no alternative to a brief respite, which benefits both parties at the most difficult time of the year. Dozens of crocodiles and hippos, along with their young, maintain a jealous distance but without breaking the peace between the two clans. If hippos stay out of the water for too long, their skin cracks and dries out, losing the moisture they need to survive. Crocodiles, for their part, could never remain outside their natural shelter for more than a day. Prolonged exposure to the sun and extreme heat can cause them to overheat and critically lose moisture, limiting their survival to just a few hours. The crocodile is trapped between a large group of hippos, their massive bodies skimming the water, watchful and silent. In this fragile truce, tension permeates the thick air of the pond, where every movement is closely watched. Because here, survival is measured by patience, restrained strength, and the ability to avoid a misstep that could be fatal. As the sun begins to set, the fragile truce fades with darkness. The hippos return to their domains with their imposing movements, and the crocodiles resume their relentless vigilance. The pond once again becomes a stage where strength and caution define who dominates each moment, and temporary peace transforms into a silent battle under the moon. As the next day dawns, the light reveals new challenges for the crocodiles. The heat awakens the landscape, and with it, other presences begin to claim their place in this ancestral territory, testing the vigilance and resilience of these ancient inhabitants. The thirsty lions cautiously approach the edge of the pond, a territory that is vital to them, both as a refuge and a source of life. In the distance, they observe the large group of crocodiles, the true owners of these ponds, crawling slowly through the weeds and mud. For crocodiles, lions are mere secondary intruders, although their presence upsets the balance. They know that wild beasts should not get too close, aware of the danger posed by their claws and teeth, but also that their alternative is miles away. However, the pressure is mounting. The pack is pushing from the shore, trying to force the crocodiles back to the center of the pond. But the reptiles do not give in, grouping together firmly to defend their territory and maintain control. The crocodiles, as a group, calibrate each movement, aware that to give in would mean losing more than just a space of water. It would mean losing a vital opportunity to survive in this unforgiving landscape. Tensions mount until the lions finally decide to retreat, considering the cost of a direct confrontation too high compared to the urgency of quenching their thirst. The group slowly moves away, allowing the pond to calm down under the silent rule of the crocodiles. So for now, the reptiles keep their territory intact, aware that this peace is only temporary, a fragile balance that will be tested again the next day. In the midst of this fight for survival, all eyes are on a single specimen, whose fate will determine the course of what is to come. This male, with his wide jaw and scars on his back, not only vigilantly guards his territory, but also prepares for a defining moment in his life, the courtship that could ensure the continuation of his lineage. He has been busy for weeks courting a female. The mating dance is surprisingly delicate, far from any aggression. These reptiles communicate through guttural sounds and vibrations in the water. These calls can be heard by other crocodiles more than 100 meters away, and they mark the rhythm of a delicate interaction. They gently brush against each other, submerge and emerge together in an ancient choreography. When the female accepts, the connection is sealed. After mating, the female has sought a safe place to lay her eggs. She chooses a small hill of mud and vegetation near the water, high enough to avoid floodwaters, but close enough for quick access. There she digs with her hind legs and lays between 30 and 50 eggs, each the size of a tennis ball. It then covers them with leaves, branches, and mud, creating a warm and humid nest, essential for the development of the embryos. For the next 3 months, the female remains nearby, not always visible but never far away. Keep an eye out for predators, curious coatis, opportunistic raccoons, or even other female crocodiles that might see the nest as a food source. During this period, the male remains on the sidelines. His role is over, and now the responsibility falls to the mother. Meanwhile, inside each egg, a tiny creature struggles to form. Its heart beats slowly. Nourished by the yolk, the eggs are so synchronized with nature that their hatching often coincides with the start of the rainy season. The moisture softens the shell, and the sound of rain stimulates the embryos to emerge. But before that happens, something extraordinary happens. At 80 days, the eggs begin to vibrate. From inside, the hatchlings emit a high-pitched, whistling sound. It is an ancestral call, a signal for the mother. She approaches the nest, carefully removes the top layer of material covering it, and waits. One by one, the tiny crocodiles break their shells with a specialized tooth, which they lose shortly after birth. This tooth, known as a caruncular tooth, is common in reptiles and birds and serves no other purpose than to aid in birth. The mother picks up the newborns with her enormous, surprisingly soft jaw and carries them to the water. There the real test begins. Although they are born ready to swim and hunt small fish, dangers abound. Birds, snakes, and other crocodiles can devour a young one in seconds. Unlike other reptiles, the mother remains with her young for weeks, even months. He guides them with specific sounds like short grunts, and they respond instinctively. It teaches them to stay hidden among floating vegetation, to recognize the sounds of danger, and to wait motionless underwater with only their eyes and noses exposed. These young reptiles also learn by observing. When their mother hunts a fish, they imitate her movements. When she remains motionless in the sun, they do the same. They don't receive lessons like a baby in its mother's arms, but every moment at her side is a silent lesson in survival, a learning that doesn't need words to be understood. As they grow older, the bonds weaken. Eventually, each one goes its own way. Some will seek out small bodies of water to avoid competition, while others will stay close to major rivers. Not all of them will survive. In fact, on average, only 1 or 2 out of every 30 will reach adulthood. But those few will be the new guardians of the river, repeating the story with other pairs, building new nests and teaching new generations the secrets of the swamp. While crocodiles guard their nests on the shore and newborn calves try to cling to life, violence unfolds inland. The savannah never stops its relentless pace. On the fringes of the herd, an adult lion trudges along. His marked ribs and fresh scars reflect days of hunger and deprivation. For years he shared hunts, territories, and rest with these same lions who now avoid him. The savannah does not tolerate weakness, and in the heart of the herd, a vulnerable body becomes a threat to the group's progress. That afternoon, as the heat begins to subside and the shadows lengthen over the dry grass, he tries to get closer once more. He seeks the refuge of the group, the closeness that was once allowed to him, but the others sense it. They tense up. In a matter of seconds, they're on him. There's no warning, no prior glances. The bites follow one another, firm and swift, on the sides, on the legs, at the base of the neck. It's not an act of cruelty, it's a silent rule dictated by necessity. A sick or weak animal compromises everyone's safety. It makes hunting difficult, attracts scavengers, and spreads disease. For this reason, first they deprived him of food, and now they expel him with violence. The lion prowls the edges of the territory alone. He knows that every night brings the stalking of hyenas, that every unhealed wound reduces his options. In this land, compassion doesn't guarantee survival. For its part, the herd continues its course, and the exile is left behind, condemned to a slow death or the unlikely feat of fending for himself. Although nature provides these predators with the most lethal weapons, such as enormous claws, sharp teeth, and an imposing physique compared to other competitors, none of this guarantees their success. A minor mistake, an ill-timed wound, or a miscalculated attack can condemn them to certain death. Survival applies to everyone, even the king of the jungle. Because in this land, where even the waters boil with teeth and jaws, the open fields offer no mercy. The pride continues its march, guided by a relentless hierarchy. and as one lion falls, another must consolidate its place. The alpha male must constantly demonstrate his dominance within the pride. The title doesn't rely solely on brute force, it also demands a balance between power and respect. His presence is commanded in every movement, in every glance he casts toward his subordinates. Fights with other males, although risky, are part of the power ritual. These clashes are not improvised. They respond to the need to reaffirm leadership in the face of internal challenges so that the pack understands that the established order remains intact. Only in this way can you ensure that no rival tries to usurp your place. He can lead a pride of up to 20 lions, but his control has limits. Too many individuals mean greater risks of insurrection and division. Therefore, the balance between firmness and tolerance is crucial. At times, the alpha shows benevolence, tolerating the presence of young rebellious males or females as long as they respect the imposed rules. However, this tolerance is temporary and monitored because power is not given up without resistance. The struggle for leadership is constant. A single mistake can pave the way for a fall. Therefore, the alpha fights not only to win, but to remind everyone of their place at the top and maintain stability within the pack. Maintaining leadership doesn't depend solely on willpower. It's also a matter of strength, of tools inherited through hundreds of generations. Anatomically superior lions are imposing with a powerful physical build. His body, designed for combat and hunting, moves with the strength of generations carved in the savannah. But a lion's ego is more dangerous than death. They have a courage that doesn't shy away from confrontation or danger, even if the price means death. Their sharp teeth are lethal weapons, capable of tearing with precise force. Adrenaline and a mix of natural chemicals in your body activate your wild instinct, preparing every fiber of your body for combat and survival. His subordinates know that he is the strongest of them all, just by looking at him. Its impressive mane projects a visual presence that deters competitors and reinforces its dominance within the pack. Thus, the lion remains at the top of the food chain, imposing its dominance over hyenas and other predators. Their strength lies not only in their physical power, but in the combination of their imposing presence, their sharp instincts, and their constant vigilance over their territory. Always ready to face danger, he prefers to die rather than retreat, an attitude that strengthens his position and maintains the balance necessary to survive in the vast African savanna. In the dense jungles, in the forests where light penetrates between the trees, another feline found its ideal habitat not only to habituate it, but to use it as a hunting center. Stealthy, elusive, almost ghostly, the panther has made the thicket its exclusive territory. It has retractable claws, something that felines like hyenas or African wild dogs do not have. Not only that, it has teeth capable of piercing the windpipe of prey with a precise and silent bite, designed to kill without alerting the surroundings. The advantage the panther saw in its habitat was that it didn't need to expose itself, quite the opposite. Every fallen branch, every deep shadow, and every suspended vine function as part of its natural shield. This is reflected in its jet black fur, which can be perfectly used during the day and completely invisible at night. At that hour, the forest becomes a land of shadows and patches of scattered light, and its color blends with the darkness that envelops the undergrowth. There, the panther stands out because it has night vision up to 6 times sharper than a human's, capable of detecting the slightest movements in the undergrowth, even in complete darkness. His eyes now spot a new prey. It's a wild boar, which is feeding, unaware that behind his back someone is planning his own meal. The situation unfolds in absolute silence. The panther advances close to the ground, its shoulders swinging gently, its padded paws not breaking a single branch. At each step, she calculates the distance between herself and the wild boar, measuring the wind, the position of her prey, and natural obstacles. Less than 5 meters away, he stops. One last exhalation, and he jumps. The attack is devastating. He falls onto the boar's back and digs his claws into the flesh. The animal barely manages to utter a muffled growl before feeling his fangs pierce its neck. The pressure is maintained for only a few seconds, just long enough to interrupt the airflow and break the resistance. The panther holds its body motionless, waiting for all sound to dissipate into the thicket. Only then does it drag its prey into the vegetation, melting into the darkness of the forest, disappearing among shadows and roots, while the jungle continues its incessant pulse. The next day, A wild boar strides forward through the tangle of damp leaves, sniffing the ground in search of food. Its wide, wet snout constantly searches through the mud and low bushes, sniffing out any edible trace. All around it, the jungle offers a varied diet, and this animal knows how to take advantage of it. Fallen fruit, tender roots, insects hiding under rocks, small vertebrates. Nothing escapes its tireless search. It is an omnivore by nature, and in this environment, this dietary flexibility is its greatest benefit for survival. Its compact body moves with confidence. Its thick skin, covered with stiff bristles, creates a natural barrier against branches, thorns, and fangs. Beneath that armor, powerful muscles propel hind legs capable of unleashing unexpected bursts of speed, a decisive advantage when the only option is to flee like prey. But despite its status as prey, the wild boar is anything but harmless. On its face, two sharp tusks emerge as lethal secondary weapons. Many an intermediate predator, such as a hungry jackal, has received deep wounds while trying to bring it down, forcing it to retreat and abandon its attempt. When evasion becomes impossible, the boar takes a stand. It digs its feet into the ground and launches short, aggressive lunges, utilizing its weight, strength, and tusks. That anatomy, shaped by constant threat, explains every detail of its design, from the wide, sensitive nose that detects roots underground and dangers in the wind, to the patterns on its back that mimic the shadows and veins of damp earth. When the mother senses danger, she flees, and the young collapse to the ground. There, their dark stripes and earth tones blend into the landscape, going unnoticed by quick eyes. Only when the threat fades does the female return. The search continues, as always, for food and shelter. This environment of shadows and dense undergrowth is their ideal terrain. Here, their sense of smell and quick movement come into their own. The soft soil hides nutritious roots, and the tangle of vegetation offers shelter from larger predators. Far from open spaces, the forest guarantees constant opportunities for food and hiding. That's why the wild boar has made this place its refuge and trap, adapting to every corner, every risk, and every resource that the forest tirelessly provides and conceals. In that same environment, among the low vegetation and dry roots, something crawls with silent precision. She is a female puff adder, as stealthy as death itself. Its body is a symphony of earth-toned patterns, perfectly designed for camouflage. She doesn't need to run. She doesn't need to be seen. Her presence is designed to avoid conflict. This viper, like most of its kin, lives in a constant balance between hunting and stealth. Its world is woven from shadows, moisture, and fallen leaves. There, among tangled roots and fallen trunks, every corner can be a cradle or a grave. In this silent dance of the tropical forest, she moves as part of it, invisible, lethal. It's known as velvet because of its shiny skin, which seems to absorb light. It can grow to over 2 meters, although most are around 1.5 meters. Its robust and flexible body can weigh up to 6 kilograms when mature. She is a master of camouflage, and her power lies both in her venom and in her ability to disappear into the undergrowth. Their existence is governed by the cycle of the night. When darkness falls over the jungle, their senses awaken. Guided by the temperature and vibrations of the ground, it stalks. It has loreal pits between its eyes and nostrils that detect the heat of nearby bodies. It doesn't need to see to know prey is nearby. A slight tremor in the air is enough to tense its muscles. Then a lightning-fast ambush, a swift, precise bite. Its venom hides a cocktail of death and early digestion, but not everything in her life is about hunting. At certain times of the year, when the rains are abundant and the forest is filled with humid aromas, an impulse older than the jungle itself compels her to seek a mate. Males travel long distances, crossing paths marked by elephants and hiding from jackals, following chemical trails imperceptible to others. Sometimes 2 of them meet on the same path, attracted by the same female. They don't bite each other. Instead, they engage in a power struggle, trying to knock each other off their feet. The winner continues on his way. When the female accepts the male, copulation is brief. Then each pair goes their separate ways. She keeps the genetic legacy within her and protects it, choosing the exact moment to give life. It can retain sperm for months, waiting for optimal conditions to fertilize its eggs. It is an act of evolutionary wisdom. Their young must be born when prey is abundant, when the jungle offers shelter and opportunities. During gestation, which lasts between 6 and 8 months, the female reduces her activity. She moves little, hunting only when necessary. Decide how long she can go without eating. Her belly slowly expands, and one night, deep in the forest, she gives birth. She doesn't lay eggs. Her young are born alive, small replicas of herself, with tiny but functional fangs, active venom, and an instinct burned into their genetic code. Up to 80 babies can be born in a single birth. They all emerge silently among the leaves without crying or assistance. Their mother doesn't care for them or guide them. The jungle is their teacher, and its lessons begin with their first breath. The valley does not forgive, but it teaches. Each cub is alone in one of the oldest and most deadly environments on the African continent. They remain hidden for the first few days, motionless, absorbing the heat of the earth and listening to the sounds of the night. Every sound, every shadow teaches them something: what to avoid, what to follow, when to attack, when to wait, and the first few weeks are crucial. Some don't make it, but those that survive soon become effective hunters, attracted by small amphibians, insects, or lizards. They instinctively learn to control their breathing, to blend in with their surroundings, to calculate the exact moment of attack. They don't need models or examples. Nature has already provided them with all the necessary tools. As they grow, their diet changes. Smaller bodies give way to larger prey: rodents, birds, even other reptiles. His technique is refined. Each ambush is more accurate, each night more certain. The puff adder doesn't take unnecessary risks. Its strength lies in its patience. The jungle, however, is a constant threat. Alligators, felines, birds of prey. Everyone competes, everyone hunts. She knows this. That's why she hides among roots, under rocks, or even inside abandoned burrows. Its life depends on not being seen. It can remain motionless for days on end if necessary, waiting for the forest to offer the perfect opportunity. Once it reaches maturity, the snake enters a new rhythm of life. It no longer needs to feed as frequently. A single large rodent can feed it for a week. Her slow metabolism and cold-blooded nature allow her to conserve energy for long periods. In the calm of the jungle, as the rain drums on the leaves, she rests. Her muscles remain tense even when she appears asleep. Everything in her body is designed for survival. In that vegetal silence, every shadow, every vibration in the ground, and every shift in the wind are signals she registers without moving. The forest may ignore her, but she ignores nothing. Its longevity can reach 15 years, provided the forest's balance is maintained. During this time, it can reproduce several times, leaving dozens of offspring, very few of which will reach adulthood. It is a crude, unadorned, but profoundly efficient cycle. When night falls and the moisture once again envelops the earth like a thick blanket, the snake awakens. It hears the distant call of a frog, feels the vibrations of prey moving nearby. There's no need to rush. In your world, patience is power. Today, fortune offers him an opportunity. A small rodent ventures beyond its refuge of roots and loose soil, sniffing among fallen leaves in search of fruit scraps. The snake remains motionless, barely an outline in the shadows. Its tongue pokes out, reading the air, capturing the warm trail of that tiny body, which, oblivious to the danger, moves a little closer. The rodent stops, sniffs, bristles its back, and seems to sense something. But it's too late. In a split second, the snake's body tenses, and with a jerk it pounces. There's no chase, just a precise strike. The fangs sink in, releasing a precise dose of venom. The rodent barely manages to shudder before collapsing onto the wet leaves. The snake takes it slowly, begins to swallow it from the head, and without haste slithers back into the shadows. It knows that this single bite will last for several days. Here, patience is always rewarded. Beneath the murky waters of the mangrove, a baby crocodile makes its way. It's only been out of its shell for a few days and already knows the danger. Larger fish, opportunistic birds, even other members of its own species pose a threat. But her mother doesn't back down. As soon as she detects a suspicious shadow, she dives hard, generating a wave that scatters the intruders. The young communicate with high-pitched squeals, and the mother responds. It's not love as the rest of the animal kingdom understands it, it's survival. Each offspring represents another attempt to perpetuate the species. And although many will never reach adulthood, the mother will do everything possible to ensure that at least some do. High in a nearby tree, a boa constrictor watches. Although it's less active during the day, its vision picks up the slightest movement. It doesn't have venom like the puff adder, but its powerful muscles are enough to suffocate any unsuspecting prey. It feeds on birds, rodents, even bats, and plays an essential role in the balance of the ecosystem. Without it, prey populations would explode and the forest would lose its natural rhythm. The rain begins to fall without warning. Fat drops hit the leaves, the ground, and the scaly back of this reptile, which remains unfazed. For it, rain is life. The rivers expand, the fish stir, and hunting becomes more fruitful. For the snake, water brings freshness, but also challenges. It must seek shelter, climb hollow logs, or slide between rocks to avoid being swept away by the currents. At night, the jungle changes its face. The song of frogs fills the air. Bats emerge to hunt insects, and the shadows lengthen. This is when the truly expert hunters spring into action. The puff adder becomes a living shadow. Its forked tongue picks up vibrations from its surroundings, detecting the body heat of its prey. If something is coming, she will know. But she's also on the lookout for predators that might attack her while she rests. Her body glides stealthily through the damp leaves of the Luangwa rainforest, where the night casts a veil of mystery over everything. Here, the puffer is feared for its lethal venom and unpredictable temperament. She is not a hunter who chases, she waits. It hides among fallen branches and twisted roots where the sun barely touches the ground. That night, however, she isn't the one hunting. The air smells different. A silent disturbance slips through the undergrowth. The puffer stops. It doesn't move. Its thermal sensors detect a warm, large, and very slow presence. A boa constrictor imperator, almost 2.5 meters long, advances with the patient pace of someone who is not afraid. His muscles, powerful like taut cables, ripple beneath his mottled skin. He doesn't look for a fight. He looks for food. The boa approaches, oblivious to the motionless shadow watching it. The two snakes share territory but rarely cross paths. However, tonight their paths intertwine by chance. The boa brushes against a branch and the puffer tenses. In its world, one false move can cost a life. The boa stops. Its lidless eyes detect a bulge among the leaves. Both snakes remain still. The silence is absolute, the tension dense. And then the puffer moves just a few inches, revealing its silhouette in the shadows. The boa, larger but not clumsy, retreats slightly. It knows that the faint glow on its spear-shaped head isn't just any reflection, it's a warning. For a few endless seconds, they measure each other. The puffer doesn't need to fight. Its venom is its strongest card. But wasting its energy on an unnecessary battle isn't its style. The boa, for its part, knows there are easier prey in the forest. Finally, the boa turns around, slithering away in the opposite direction. The puffer remains motionless for a moment longer, making sure the threat has dissipated. Then, slowly, it continues its way toward a warm rock that retains the day's warmth. In the forest, everything is balanced. It's not the strongest who wins, but the one who knows when to attack and when to disappear. Their camouflage is their shield, and their silence, their best defense. Meanwhile, in the water, this oviparous creature moves like a log towards the drift. Only when it's inches away from its prey does it launch an explosive attack. The strike is so sudden that the fish barely has time to react. The sound of snapping jaws mingles with the crunch of broken scales and crushed bones. Another victory in the eternal war for food. The days pass and the cycle continues. Those who hunt today will likely be hunted tomorrow. From the highest branches to the deepest mudflats, every creature has a function. Crocodiles clean rivers of sick or weak animals, preventing the spread of disease. Snakes control rodent populations and help conserve natural crops. Even the most feared have a vital purpose in Luangwa. And while the world is changing out there, here in the heart of the wilderness, the rules remain the same. Observe without being seen, strike with precision, protect your own when necessary, and survive day after day without respite. Luangwa Valley, where the air ripples with heat and shadows lengthen beneath the skin of stones, life crawls, flies, hides, and hunts. This region of Zambia, plagued by extreme temperatures and marked by extended periods of drought, is one of the most unforgiving ecosystems on the African continent. Every species that inhabits this environment has been shaped by the constant pressure to survive. And in the early hours of the day, when the light is still soft and temperatures have not yet reached their peak, the animals begin their activity. Alert female impalas guide their young toward dense vegetation. The open countryside offers good visibility, but also limits their escape options. Among the shadows, the bushes become both refuge and trap. Several meters away, an adult leopard rests on a thick tree branch. From there, its view encompasses every corner of the clearing. His eyes follow the movements of the herd, focused on a calf that, separated from its mother, takes longer than expected to move. It doesn't descend immediately. The feline knows that in this environment, impatience is punishable. The light breeze carries the scent of its potential prey, and its muscles remain motionless, tense, accumulating energy. The impala calf stops. It nibbles at some low-lying leaves, unaware of the threat. The mother moves forward, but the child lingers. Then the leopard begins to stealthily descend, each movement calculated, stopping when the impala's ears twitch at an indefinite sound. The predator remains motionless. The wind shifts again, the prey resumes its march, and the leopard slides to the ground. Now, hidden in the bushes, he approaches slowly. With each step, his body brushes the grass soundlessly. The distance narrows. 10 meters, 8, 5. The impala senses something. It raises its head, its ears pricked, its body tense and ready to pounce, but it's too late. At that precise moment, the leopard explodes into speed. The grass stirs, nearby birds take flight. The cub tries to flee, but a lightning leap closes the gap. A sharp blow to the neck and it's all over. Only then does the rest of the pack scatter in all directions. The predator, panting, retreats, dragging its prey into the undergrowth. Calm returns to the clearing as if nothing had happened. But not all predators here have fangs or roar. Some hunt silently and with venom. Under the rocks, in dry, sun-exposed crevices, lurks one of the world's most feared arachnids, the thick-tailed scorpion. Although it measures only 10 centimeters, its sting is lethal. This specimen is especially active at night, when temperatures drop and the risk of exposure decreases. During the day, it remains hidden, taking advantage of any shade to avoid dehydration and its own predators. Its pale yellow body effectively camouflages it against the dusty ground. It moves with meticulous movements, using sensitive hairs on its legs to detect the most subtle vibrations. This ability allows it to locate its prey, even if it's buried beneath the surface. Its hunting method doesn't rely on sight, but rather on touch and sensory perception. It glides slowly, pausing to listen and capture the slightest vibration in the sand, tracking invisible prey that in turn tries to avoid its stealthy ambush. Every night, this tiny arachnid begins a ritual it has repeated for generations. It moves stealthily among the desert rocks, using specialized structures called pectins to detect vibrations in the ground. These pectins function as extremely precise motion sensors, capable of detecting the presence of nearby prey, even if they move only a few millimeters. The environment is hostile, the temperature is almost unbearable, and every movement carries a risk. In this harsh and rugged landscape, the Androctonus, one of the most venomous parabuthus in the world, has perfected a patient and meticulous hunting strategy. It doesn't chase its prey. It doesn't actively stalk it. It pauses. It observes. The slightest tremor in the sand, a subtle vibration in the rock, is enough to betray the presence of an unsuspecting insect. The scorpion remains motionless. It analyzes. It measures distances. It calculates the exact moment with instinctive precision. When prey enters its range, the Androctonus wastes no energy. There's no chase or struggle, just a sharp, swift, and controlled movement. Its stinger, curved along its back, descends with the precision of a scalpel. The neurotoxic venom acts within seconds, paralyzing the prey's muscles before it even understands what has happened. The sand becomes still again. The predator retreats, carrying its catch with it, part of a silent routine that repeats itself night after night in these extreme places. The purpose of venom isn't just to kill. Its primary function is to internally decompose the victim's tissues, turning muscles and organs into a semi-liquid mixture that can be easily ingested. This process allows the scorpion to maximize nutrient absorption without wasting energy on digestion. The result is a silent, efficient, and perfectly adapted hunting technique. An evolutionary process honed over millions of years, where each movement serves a specific purpose. Nothing is wasted. No effort is unnecessary. But it's not all about hunting. In the warmer months, the female responds to a biological impulse that has sustained her species for millions of years, mating. The male approaches with extreme caution. He knows that any mistake can trigger a lethal reaction. In most scorpion species, courtship consists of a sequence of calculated movements. They touch each other with their tweezers, exchange chemical signals, and engage in a pattern of behavior that has evolved to minimize risk. However, the danger is constant. In the world of scorpions, mating is a dangerous act. What in other species marks the beginning of possible offspring can end in immediate death here. If the female perceives the male as a threat, or if she's simply not receptive, she doesn't hesitate to attack him. The predator becomes prey in a matter of seconds. She devours him before he can reproduce. This behavior, which may seem extreme, responds to an ancestral logic, ensuring that only the fittest and most suitable individuals leave offspring. For the male, every attempt is a gamble. Approaching, courting, and depositing his spermatophore requires a balance of firmness and caution. But when mating is completed, and after a long gestation period that varies according to the species and environmental conditions, up to 50 offspring can be born. They are small, fragile, and lack pigmentation. They cannot fend for themselves. For the first few weeks, their survival depends entirely on their mother. They climb up its body and remain on its back, where they find protection from predators and extreme environmental conditions. At this stage, they do not hunt. They simply absorb the nutrients stored in their bodies since birth. The mother, still carrying her offspring, continues to occasionally go out in search of food. He knows that any trace of smell can attract enemies. She moves cautiously, evaluating every movement. Her hardened exoskeleton serves as her only shield, both for herself and the young that accompany her. But this stage of protection has a limited duration. Once the young undergo their first molt, their appearance changes. They become more mobile, develop a partial exoskeleton, and begin to display autonomous behaviors. This moment marks a turning point in the relationship with the mother. From then on, she no longer identifies them as her offspring, but rather as potential competitors for space and resources. The evolutionary strategy of this small animal is clear: maximize reproductive opportunities and then force independence. The prolonged stay of the young represents a risk. If they don't leave, he eliminates them as effectively as he eliminated his prey. Meanwhile, in another corner of Luangwa, among the twisted branches of a thorny tree, a different colony is bustling. They don't crawl, they buzz. This is a colony of African black wasps of the genus Poliste, known for their advanced social behavior and ability to build complex structures. These wasps don't live underground or in undergrowth. They've built their nest high above the ground, suspended among branches out of reach of many predators. It is a sphere of hardened material made from chewed plant fibers mixed with saliva. The structure, although fragile to the eye, is solid and resistant. The colony is made up of dozens, even hundreds of individuals, each with a specific role. There's no improvisation. The workers are responsible for defense, food gathering, and nest maintenance. Others are dedicated exclusively to caring for the young, ensuring that the larvae receive constant food. The queen, recognizable by her size and behavior, remains inside, ensuring the genetic continuity of the colony. Every morning, groups of workers leave the nest in low-flying flights to search for food. They move precisely over the ground, identifying small prey such as caterpillars, larvae, or even spiders. Unlike bees, these wasps don't forage for pollen. They're predators. They use their sting not as a defense, but as a hunting tool. They inject venom to paralyze their prey before cutting it into manageable pieces. Learning is part of the process. Younger, inexperienced workers sometimes miscalculate. They attack targets beyond their capabilities or break away from the group, becoming prey themselves. However, these losses are part of the colony's life cycle. Over time, the surviving workers develop greater efficiency and precision in their sorties. Information about hunting routes, prey location, and external conditions appears to be transmitted indirectly through chemical signals and collective behavior. This type of communication allows them to operate in a coordinated manner without the need for a visible leader in daily tasks. Hunting missions aren't random, they're optimized through trial and error. The return to the nest is meticulous. Every piece of prey collected has a purpose. The workers process the remains, removing inedible parts before feeding the larvae. The survival of the next generation depends on this supply chain. There, pieces of prey are offered as a feast for the growing larvae, while the adults feed on sweet nectar they collect along the way. But their true strength is not in the poison, it is in the numbers. A single wasp lacks the power to protect the colony from a predator, but when a threat is detected, the response is immediate and coordinated. A chemical signal imperceptible to other species is released into the air. It's an alarm pheromone, a silent command that activates the entire colony. Within seconds, dozens, even hundreds of workers emerge from the nest as a tactical unit, attacking with precision. There is no hesitation. There is no retreat. Each bite is part of a collective defense that together can deter or eliminate an invader. At the center of this biological machinery is the queen. Nestled deep within the nest, her role is neither to fight nor to gather food. Her sole task is to ensure the reproduction of the colony. It can easily lay more than 300 eggs in its lifetime. Its environment is carefully maintained by the workers, who control temperature, cleanliness, and feeding with surgical efficiency. The hierarchy is well defined, and each individual fulfills their role without deviation. In this microcosm, error has no place. But in Luangwa, the balance can be broken at any moment. On a moonless night, a new conflict is brewing. Under a hot rock, a Parabuthus transvalicus remains at rest. Its body is adapted for ambush. Ultra-sensitive sensors detect minimal vibrations in the ground. Nearby, a young wasp ventures outside the perimeter of the nest. It's its first reconnaissance mission. Inexperienced, it flies too low. The scorpion acts with lethal precision. It detects movement and launches a swift attack. The stinger sinks in sharply. The wasp falls to the ground, paralyzed. However, its defensive instinct kicks in even in agony. In its final seconds, it manages to counterattack. Its own sting pierces the arthropod's exoskeleton. Both venoms act quickly. The wasp's nervous system collapses. The scorpion, although more resilient, begins to show signs of muscle paralysis. There are no spectators, no glory. Just two motionless bodies on the dry ground. Two warriors fall, victims of a battle neither had planned. In Luangwa, surviving isn't always about winning. Sometimes it's simply about enduring another day. In the distance, among the bushes and bark, other species watch. A few meters away, a female jackal leads her 3 cubs on their first night patrol. Every step is a lesson. It teaches them to detect tracks in the loose earth, to distinguish between fresh and old scents, and to move cautiously through terrain where any sound can mean the difference between life and death. The goal is not to hunt, but to learn. In parallel, another scene unfolds with equal intensity, but on a smaller scale. A lizard advances among the remains of a recent confrontation. This reptile, adapted to high temperatures and rapid environmental changes, approaches the motionless body of a wasp. The prey, now defenseless, is devoured in seconds. The agama wastes no time. It detects movement, a still-living scorpion. The predator knows when to advance and when to retreat. It retreats. Its survival depends on constantly calculating risks. This visibly injured arthropod crawls toward a shaded area. It's breathing heavily. It lacks the strength to defend itself or flee quickly. If he does not find shelter soon, he will be exposed to other hunters or to the sudden changes in temperature that dominate the valley's nights. Their priority is to find a hiding place, regain energy, and heal, or at least disappear from the scavenger's radar. Meanwhile, in another part of the valley, a wasp colony is experiencing its own crisis. Food shortages have endangered the youngest larvae. The recent storm has hampered hunting, and many of the workers tasked with gathering prey have not returned. Even so, the few survivors organize the distribution of available resources. Offspring with the greatest potential for development are prioritized. It's a forced but necessary selection. With the arrival of the storm, the challenge intensifies. The gusts pound relentlessly. The nest, attached to a branch, shakes violently. The workers in response adopt a collective behavior. They form a protective layer over the larvae, using their own bodies as a barrier against the wind. Some fall. Others endure to the end. There is no visible leadership, only an instinctive response to shared danger. When dawn finally breaks over the Luangwa Valley, calm gradually returns. The sun breaks through the last shreds of clouds. In the tree, the nest is still there. Visible damage, inevitable losses, but still functional. Inside, some larvae have survived. The colony, although weakened, has the possibility of continuing. Luangwa doesn't reward the strong. It rewards those who best adapt. Night fades and warmth quickly returns. As the shadows retreat, the inhabitants of the ground revive. The morning moisture attracts tiny insects, and behind them their predators. Under a rock still warm from the residual heat of the previous day, one of the most resistant arachnids of the desert begins to move, the yellow scorpion of North Africa. This adult female is not alone. On her back, a dozen newborn pups cling tightly to the plates of her exoskeleton. They are vulnerable, and for their first few days of life, they depend entirely on their mother for survival. One of the juveniles briefly descends to the ground. It explores its surroundings with its sensory feet, but the movement of a nearby millipede forces it to retreat immediately. At that age, any carelessness can be fatal. The mother remains alert, motionless, minimizing energy expenditure. Its yellowish tone blends in with the color of the ground, serving as effective camouflage to both avoid predators and ambush its prey. Last night, the scarcity of food reduced their hunting opportunities. Now, with daylight increasing, the chances aren't high either, but their energy needs are urgent. Its slow metabolism allows it to survive on little food, but caring for its young requires greater resources. This arachnid's hunting behavior is based on immobility. It positions itself in strategic locations where insects are most frequent. It relies on the vibrations perceived by the trichobothria on its legs to detect nearby prey. He doesn't chase, he waits. It's an efficient strategy in an environment where expending energy with no guarantee of success can be fatal. A cricket passes by, unaware of the danger. The scorpion reacts with precision. In less than a second, it thrusts its pincers forward, captures the insect, and almost simultaneously plunges its sting into its prey's abdomen. The neurotoxic toxin it inoculates directly affects the cricket's nervous system, interrupting its mobility almost instantly. The venom acts immediately, the prey stops. Then the process is mechanical. Its body begins to liquefy from within. The scorpion feeds. Meanwhile, further north in the same ecosystem, a patrol of black wasps is activated at first light. This is not a random reaction. The emergence of workers is regulated by light and temperature cycles and occurs with almost mechanical precision. Each individual knows its task. The flight routes have been memorized through numerous reconnaissance flights. This morning there is no nectar gathering. Today the priority is to obtain animal protein. It is hunting day. During flight, their trajectories may appear disordered, but they follow structured search patterns. They concentrate in microhabitats, cracks in trunks, the base of shrubs, and the hidden part of leaves. They seek out specific prey, larvae, small arthropods, even other more vulnerable wasp species. When they locate a target, a worker bee acts quickly. It uses its sting to immobilize the prey, then uses its mandibles to tear it apart. Some parts are stored to feed the larvae in the nest. Others are partially consumed on the return journey as an immediate source of energy. This constant flow of entry and exit is essential for the maintenance of the colony. The nest, located in a protected cavity, suffered considerable damage during a night attack. The attacker is unknown, but clear signs of combat are evident: broken wings, missing legs, and worn mandibles. Despite this, there is no interruption in the assigned tasks. Each worker acts as part of a collective structure that cannot help but come to a standstill. The system's efficiency depends on individual persistence, even when it means continuing to operate with damaged limbs. During the warmer months, an active colony can host between 100 and 300 individuals engaged in foraging, defense, and maintenance. The hierarchy is well defined. There's no room for individual decision-making. Everything is determined by pheromones, physical contact, and spatial memory. The regeneration of the nest has already begun. While some workers hunt, others work to repair damaged cells, reinforcing the structures with chewed plant fibers, which are transformed into a paper-like pulp. The distribution of these tasks requires no verbal communication or direct supervision. It is biologically programmed. At a structural level, the nest acts as a closed biological factory. The internal temperature is maintained stable thanks to the muscular activity of the individuals and the design of the habitat itself. At the center of the system is the only truly indispensable member. The queen, hidden deep within the nest, remains isolated from the chaos. Her sole function is to lay eggs. The life of the colony depends on her fertility. Beneath the dry, broken earth, other creatures also struggle to survive. Centipedes, termites, and beetles move in tunnels, avoiding the surface as the heat increases. Black wasps have learned to follow their trails. These winged predators rely on smell and ground vibrations to locate their subterranean prey. When they detect activity, they remain motionless above the tunnel entrance, waiting for the right moment. At other times, they dig directly, guided by the chemical trail they have learned to identify precisely. The hunt isn't always successful, but for the wasp, every opportunity counts. It needs to paralyze its prey, deposit an egg inside, and seal the chamber before leaving. Its reproductive cycle depends on it. Meanwhile, on the surface, the heat reaches its peak. As the sun rises, most animals reduce their activity. It's midday, and the temperature exceeds 40 degrees. This arthropod, which had briefly emerged at dawn, has now returned to its refuge among the rocks. Its slow metabolism allows it to conserve energy and survive for long periods without food or water. The young, which remain attached to their mother's back, begin to show signs of independence. Some cautiously descend, explore the surrounding terrain for a few seconds, and then climb back up. They are not yet ready to face the risks of the outside world. They will reach maturity after several molts, a process that takes weeks, even months. Until then, they are completely dependent on the protection provided by their mother. In the nearby trees, the threat comes from the air. An insectivorous bird keeps watch from a high branch. These birds have developed specialized techniques to identify movements, colors, and patterns in their environment. The target isn't the entire nest, but rather an unsuspecting worker bee. The speed of the attack is key. In a matter of milliseconds, the bird descends, opens its beak, and catches its prey. The impact is so swift that the wasp has no time to respond. The hunter immediately moves away with her catch. The others, alerted by the vibration of the attack, hover around the nest for minutes, ready to defend it. They find no threat. The enemy has abandoned the site. In the afternoon, a molt begins. This arachnid rubs itself against a stone with slow, almost imperceptible movements. The old layer of chitin separates. It's a critical moment. He is completely exposed. The new skin is soft and translucent, lacking the toughness that protects him from the outside world. In this brief interval, any attack could be fatal. The young, riding on their backs, disperse. Instinct dictates caution. The process takes about an hour. There's no room for error. With the molt complete and the new armor beginning to harden in the warm air, the scorpion regroups. Luangwa logic, the mother's response is automatic. She devours it. There's no room for sentimentality. In this environment, every gram of protein counts. Survival takes priority over any other form of bonding. A few meters away, on a low branch, another cycle is activated. Inside a black wasp nest, the social structure is reorganized. Males emerge for the first time. They have no productive role. They don't hunt, build, or protect the nest. Its function is brief: to fertilize the new queens. Once this task is completed, their presence becomes irrelevant. In most cases, they are expelled or eliminated by the workers. The future queens, on the other hand, are in no hurry. They remain inside, feeding and accumulating reserves. They won't emerge until their bodies are ready for the demanding journey of establishing a new colony. When that time comes, they will set out on their own, seeking a crevice, a corner of bark, or a safe branch to start another empire from scratch. As night falls, the drop in temperature brings with it a new dynamic. Nocturnal species become active. On the ground, a column of soldier ants advances in a straight line. This isn't scouting, it's attacking. These ants hunt in groups as a single entity. They identify a target, move quickly, and don't stop until they destroy it. This time, the target is the wasp's nest, but they're not at all unprepared. With experience gained from generations of similar encounters, they've learned to detect the scent of these ants, and the alarm spreads within seconds. The workers gather at the nest entrance, lined up, their stings exposed. A confrontation is imminent. The clash is violent and brief. The ants try to enter, but the defense is effective. Several fall before crossing the threshold. A few manage to enter, but never come out again. The price is high. 3 wasps lie lifeless on the ground. One of them is dragged by a companion to a distant location. The area is immediately cleared. A carcass can attract predators. The smell of decomposition betrays the nest's location. The priority is to eliminate any trace of vulnerability. With the threat neutralized, the environment returns to relative calm. The scorpion, meanwhile, has resumed its routine. It hunts a beetle crossing the leaf litter. The attack is clean, a precise sting on the exact spot. The young, no longer completely dependent on their mother, watch. They are at a crucial stage. They imprint hunting, behavioral, and response patterns. They'll soon disperse to live independently. Not all of them will make it. Most will die before reaching adulthood. That's how this system works. No respite, no guarantees. On the riverbank, a new wasp colony is beginning to form. A queen has established herself. She digs quickly, choosing a site with partial shade and good ventilation. It gathers plant fibers, which it mixes with saliva to form the cellulose that will serve as its base. It builds its first cell and lays its eggs. In a few days, the first workers will hatch. With them, the nest's expansion will begin. Night has completely settled in. For some species, it represents a time of rest. For others, it's the perfect opportunity to move around unseen. This arthropod moves precisely through the undergrowth, detecting vibrations in the ground. The wasp, on the other hand, remains motionless, protected in its nest. Apparently, both creatures are insignificant. But each one has overcome hundreds of challenges to get to this point. What keeps them alive isn't strength, speed, or an intimidating appearance. It's the ability to adapt. It's the genetic memory passed down, trial and error, generation after generation. Luangwa doesn't reward ferocity, nor beauty. It only allows those who understand the relentless rhythm of the jungle to continue existing, day after day, bite after bite. And while others fall, those who survive don't celebrate, they just keep going.